evening and welcome to Thai PBS World. Right now, Singapore is dealing with sharp rise of COVID-19 cases, especially among foreign workers. The number of total cases in Singapore surpassed 14,000 cases. In the Thai PBS World tonight, Khun Thep Chai Yong and me talk to Thai ambassador in Singapore and ask him the latest situation and the treatment of Thai migrant labor in Singapore.
Mr. Ambassador, from the outside, things in Singapore look very bad, according to news report we have been reading. So how is it actually, on the ground you are there? So how is it, what exactly is the situation there now?
If you look at the figures, it can be perhaps, a little bit amazement in that sense. You have a very high number of cases now in Singapore. Just reported at noon today, 799 new cases, and that amounts now to 14,423 total cases. So in terms of the numbers, it may look a little bit, can struck you with some awe. But what is actually happening is that we see so far the cases are being confined, or shall we say contained in the majority of the cases, which is the foreign workers' dormitories. In that sense, and if you look at it against the number of local cases in various parts of the community here in Singapore, they're actually much smaller, about 20 or so number of cases. So that is the silver lining. Of course, for the foreign workers in the dormitories, it's still a very anxious situation because the vast majority of the infections are there. And certainly the Thai workers feel anxious. Their families here in Thailand feel anxious. And therefore, the Royal Thai Embassy, we will monitor very closely, work very closely in touch with the Thai community here in Singapore, with the Thai labor in the dormitories, as well as with the Singaporean government. So we will follow very closely and see what best we can to supplement and complement the efforts that are being taken right now by the Singaporean government to take care of the foreign workers here in Singapore, including the Thai workers.
Do you have any idea how many of the Thai workers there may need help?
Yes, that is one of our top priorities. What we have done is we have established about 2 weeks ago a task force here at the embassy, comprising the Office of the Labor Attaché, our Defense Attaché, and everyone else to combine, working very closely with the Thai community and the representatives of Thai workers who were actually there in the dormitories. And we set up a network to try to follow and take a census of how many workers are actually in the dormitories. Right now, the figures that we have is around 4,000. We have about 4,000 Thai workers in the 43 foreign workers dormitories here in Singapore, but there are other places as well. There are other dormitories and sites which are not under the control of the government agencies here in Singapore. They're run by the private companies, and of course there are other labor here in Singapore as well. So we try to follow them very closely and to give them as much support as we can.
And how many of them are being treated in hospital, Ambassador? How many of Thai migrant workers?
We don't have the exact figure of how many Thais are migrant workers, but we do know that as of yesterday, there are 82 Thai nationals, comprising can be residents, can be workers that are now classified as being an infected case and are receiving the necessary care in the various hospitals here in Singapore. And of course, I'd like to thank the Singaporean government for taking care of all Thai nationals who are affected by the COVID-19. How it works is that we will be informed of each particular case, for example, the visa status that they have of the Thai nationals, but we won't be informed of the exact identity. This is a private information issue, but what each case Thai national has received is the phone number of the hotline of the Thai embassy. So if each of the person affected by the COVID-19 wants to contact the Thai embassy, they can do so. As of now, there are 5 Thai nationals that have already contacted the embassy and told us that they are well. And so, and we are following very closely. And if the remaining 50 plus or 60 plus Thai nationals wish to contact the embassy, they can. Out of these, we expect maybe 80% of the number of Thai laborers right now who are infected are probably Thai workers. So we're following the situation very closely.
But have any of the Thais made known their wishes to come home? Or if they do, how do you handle the situation?
Yes, there are different Thai people have different views. For those of them who wish to come to Thailand, we certainly will work closely with them and with the agencies in Bangkok. As you may know, for the moment, there is a ban on civilian commercial flights, passenger flights entering Thai airspace. And this has been extended till the end of the month, until the end of next month, in fact. And so we will have to work very closely if there are certain numbers of Thai people who wish to go back for various reasons, and we can understand that. We will try to make the arrangements, what we call repatriation flights. Now, we are still lucky because there are still cargo flights that are servicing Bangkok and Singapore. And so it's not going to be difficult if we have a repatriation flight to secure passenger seats as well in those cargo flights. They also serve passengers as well. So this is something that we try to coordinate. But what I'd like to say is that the overall situation in Singapore, there's a sense of calmness. If you look at the, in the streets and you follow the media and the social media as well, there's a sense of calmness that they are tackling the situation. One statistic that I'd like to share is the number of deaths here in Singapore. Now, there may be a large number of infections, 14,000 plus, but the number of deaths is 12 deaths. So what does that mean? That means that the public health system here in Singapore has been able to service and to take care of those infected. If you look at it percentage-wise, how compare the number of deaths here in Singapore to the number of infected, you have a ratio, a percentage of only 0.08% of those infected die. So, which means that the vast majority receive the necessary treatment in order to get better. So that is a good statistic that we follow very closely.
In terms of number, it has risen quite sharply last week. Ambassador, can you just tell us what's the procedure of the testing and why so suddenly the number has increased very sharply, but today it has declined a bit?
Yes, it's a very good question. I think for those of us who have been following developments in Singapore quite closely, you can see that the first announcement that there was a case of foreign workers being infected from the dormitories was the 31st of March. That's when you had the original, according to the reports, 4 foreign workers that had been infected. And that the number of foreign workers right now has, up until just a few days ago has increased so much now to around like 10,525 foreign workers. That's the data as of the 26th of April. The question is why? Well, it seems as though since the area is a contained area involving many dormitories where perhaps there are more crowded conditions than in other places in Singapore, the chances of infection are higher. But also part of the reason is that once it has been identified that the foreign workers' dormitories is a high-risk area, it has led what we call, what they say, I guess in international parlance, is the proactive testing. And therefore, and the reason behind that, as we understand it, is that there is a conscious effort to separate sick workers from the healthy workers, because don't forget that foreign workers here in Singapore make up in total about 1.4 million foreign workers here in Singapore. That makes up about 40% of the labor force here in Singapore. So if you're going to separate the sick from the healthy and therefore protect the healthy and allow them to be able to pursue the various, work in the various industries in order to keep the economy going, testing would be required. So that is one of the reasons why the numbers have increased very rapidly in the last few weeks or so.
Thai ambassador in Singapore keep us updated with the latest situation, especially about Thai workers in Singapore. And that's all from Thai PBS World tonight.